This week we highlight another life well lived. The next time you get in the car and plug your destination into the GPS to immediately find the fastest route, you can thank a pioneering mathematician named Gladys West.
Gladys grew up on a small family farm in rural Virginia, the daughter of sharecroppers. As high school valedictorian, she earned a scholarship to Virginia State College, where she studied mathematics. A few years after graduating, Gladys was hired at the Naval Proving Ground in Dahlgren, Virginia, where she was one of only 4 black employees. One of the others was a man named Ira West, who would become her husband of 67 years. While programming large-scale computers and analyzing satellite data for the Navy in the 1980s, West developed an increasingly precise and accurate map of the Earth's shape. Her algorithms and data mapping created the functions and laid the groundwork for the modern Global Positioning Systems, or GPS, found in phones, cars, and in military weapons. West retired from the Naval Surface Warfare Center in 1998 after 42 years of service. At the age of 70, she went back to school, earning a doctorate from Virginia Tech. Dr. Gladys West, whose groundbreaking work paved the way for GPS, died last weekend in Fredericksburg, Virginia. She was 95 years old.
Greetings from the east to north to south, and this wicked-ass West. The topic: the father of AI was black. The mother of GPS was black. The questions: why you think this information is suppressed to the whole world? Let's get into it. I'm your host. I am the one.
In my 60 plus years on this earth, I've never heard of a Dr. Gladys West. And I'm pretty sure that's by design. When it comes down to GPS, the first thing any person would think is that the white man invented that. The very important thing about suppressing information from the black community is that it keeps us at a low state. Can you imagine if young black women understood that the possibilities of how far they can go? Because I know a lot of very intelligent black women. But the women they push at us is Carly B, I hope I'm saying her name right, or Red Sexy, or whoever the hell that lady is, some type of rapper, whoever they are. But one thing is important that this good Christian white man does is to be sure he suppresses information, because it's contagious if black people knew how far they can go. So what the white man does is take the best of the best in the black community, and he take that for himself. And he make all types of money off those individuals. And guess what? They die, and they may give them a little accolades after they have passed. But financially, no, they keep all the money and the benefits and the patents for themselves. Whereas they maintain generational wealth forever. I'm going to cut this short, and I'm going to let the story tell the story about Gladys West's accomplishments. Let's go to the next clip.
Whether it's navigating jet airliners, providing directions to a new restaurant, or geotagging your social media pictures, few imagine the impact GPS would have on modern society, including 88-year-old Gladys West.
I never would have thought that I could sit in a car and, it says, turn left, turn right. No.
For 42 years, Gladys was employed by the U.S. Navy. As a mathematician, She would help lay the groundwork for many of the government's orbital satellite projects. That includes what became the Global Positioning System, or what we call GPS.
We didn't do all the GPS stuff that's for the car and all, we didn't actually do that, but what we did was got the accuracy of where things were located all around the world and stuff, and it's a database.
Born in 1930, Gladys grew up on her family's farm just south of Richmond, Virginia, where she learned the value of hard work. And that would pay off for Gladys, who wanted more than what life on a country farm could offer.
You could get a scholarship if you were the first or second in your high school graduating class. So right off, I was Johnny on the spot, doing all my work all the time.
She finished at the top of her high school class, earning her a full scholarship to what was then called Virginia State College, a historically black school in Petersburg, Virginia.
If you want more information on Dr. Gladys West, just look it up. It's a very amazing story. As a matter of fact, it'll give the younger people, males and females, hope of her accomplishments. I got one final clip, and his name is David Blackwell. He's the math behind AI. One thing about this is you will never know, you probably never heard of David Blackwell, and that's, of course, done by design. It's done on purpose. But one of the biggest chip companies, NVIDIA, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, he was an innovator, and he was the math behind AI. Now, this is so far above my head. The only thing I can do is go to the next clip and, let the clip explain how great this man was. Of course, the majority of black people will never hear of him because it's almost like, you push white Jesus at the black community. Of course, you lose interest. But you push black Jesus at conscious black people, you will get their attention. So with Mr. Blackwell, give us his information and you will inspire a whole generation. Let's go to the next clip.
National Medal of Science II, David Blackwell, University of California, Berkeley.
I would like to introduce you to a very, very big GPU, named after David Blackwell.
For fundamental contributions to probability theory, mathematical statistics, information theory, mathematical logic, and Blackwell games.
David Blackwell was a great amongst greats. He was the great, great, great mathematician among great mathematicians.
Blackwell was a pioneer who was ahead of his time.
I thought I knew my grandfather. Eggs at dawn, martinis at dusk, and a 5% dividend man all the way. Years later, NVIDIA named their platform Blackwell. That's when I start digging and discovered my grandfather, Professor Blackwell, architect of the mathematics behind artificial intelligence.
A lot of his ideas really caused people to rethink, how do we interpret data?
There are many, many standard tools that people use all the time that are named after David. Blackwell spaces and the Rao-Blackwell theorem.
Blackwell nowadays is known for what's called the Blackwell-Rao theorem. Sort of like saying if something happens frequently enough, you should be able to kind of predict what's going to happen next. However, there might be some bias in some of that data. That's essentially what the Blackwell-Rao theorem tells you, is that there's a way you can kind of estimate what should happen, but then minimize the bias that you would have there in the data. And this is an amazing approach to doing statistics. if Blackwell were alive today, he would certainly be the one to raise up his hand and say, you know, look, there's bias in AI, there's bias in the training data that we're using, and we really need to think about minimizing these as more and more people use these models.
I was very clear that I was going to be a school teacher. My father had a friend who was on the school board, and before I finished high school, he already told my father that if I went to college and got a degree, he would get me a job teaching. And this was in the Depression, and it was a great relief to me and everybody else when it was clear what my future was going to be. After I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years, I decided to spend my 4th year getting a master's degree. But then at the end of my 4th year, I was encouraged to apply for a fellowship to go on for a PhD, and I did. And then, of course, my objective changed. There were perhaps 25 awards. 22 of them required teaching assistant responsibilities. 3 of them were pure fellowships. And everybody applied for both things, and the lucky 3 got the fellowships. And one of my colleagues who also applied told me that I was going to get one of the fellowships. And I said, how do you know? And he said, well, you're good enough to be supported, and they're not going to put you in front of a classroom. And he was right.
They were not going to put you in front of a classroom because?
Because I'm black. Specifically to African Americans, I would say, don't consider your race as a handicap. If you want to go in a direction, go in that direction. In other words, make decisions on the same basis as if you were Chinese or white or anything else. Don't worry so much about race. It's going to be a factor, but let other people worry about it. Don't you worry about it.
One thing you couldn't imagine is how far black people can go if it wasn't for the good Christian white man. Now, here you have a black man and a black woman. They have surpassed every obstacle that was placed in front of them. And they have done exceptional things in their field. Can you imagine if race was not a factor? Therefore, you will have that peace of mind to just focus in on your studies. This is what white people don't understand. White people, a so-called genius, he can really focus in, or she can really focus in on their studies. But blacks have this extra added burden of facing racism. Now just think about it for a minute. We are not equal people. If blacks and whites was on the same even playing field, the competition would not even be close. Thank you for watching. I am your host. I am the one.